Hello, dear listeners, and welcome to the VVA podcast. My name is Leila Oresme,
And I'm Cristina Tumino.
and this is the episode number 1 entitled New Beginnings.
Yes, in the last episode, we talk about conceptions of new ideas and new and thoughts. And on this episode, we will be more talking about new beginnings and what does it mean to put those kind of conceptions into practice, into action.
Yeah, exactly, because, it's not enough to just have an idea. We all kind of know that once we have conceived an idea for something, we actually have to take some actions in order to reach our goals. And we basically want to talk about things that we kind of encounter on this path. I feel like the main thing is actually having the willpower to start, because everyone has great ideas, but not everyone has the mental discipline to actually get up and start doing things towards that.
Yeah, I think willpower is quite tricky for many people because it's more about I think in some way we can be as well our worst enemies and be fearful. I know we talked last time about fear, but being fearful to actually make things happen and
Yeah,
effort to
yeah,
make things happen, and in that sense we can avoid that kind of willpower to to do things. Um,
because I think last time when we were talking about the kind of uncertainty and fear of not being good enough, I think at this point I feel that it can be even stronger, because it's like this resistance that tells you, no, actually, you're not good enough to start this, just give it up. But I feel like we actually have to be, again, comfortable with not being good, because this is just the beginning and we have the whole journey to refine ourselves and whatever we are doing in order to get there. And we have to just accept that this is only the beginning. um
and it's normal. I think we are quite vulnerable at the beginning,
mm,
and that's what in some way kind of scares us and makes us a bit more fragile in terms of not only the idea that we're going to put into action, that we are going to manifest, but as well as we were talking last time, in terms of the resistance from others as well. So that's why willpower is so important. You really need to be focused and disciplined, as you were saying,
yeah,
in order to make things happen. Um, Especially because at the very beginning, the whole thing is quite fragile as well. And we are quite vulnerable because we don't have skills. We don't know. It's like a baby, as we were talking last time.
yeah, and we really have to kind of push with full force at this point in order to break through this kind of first layer of like nothingness in a way. And I think also, the this kind of force and this willpower is actually, it's actually a masculine force. And I feel like, today, masculinity has been so demonized to a point where anyone that kind of has all this power with them, all this like inner fire to actually start new things, they might actually be kind of almost scared of it, because everyone always talks about how masculinity is toxic, but not all masculinity is toxic. It's only the unbalanced version of it. And I feel like we all need that force. We just have to know how to use it correctly and to channel it into the right
Yeah,
things.
I was thinking that um, I think it's important to specify as well masculinity doesn't mean male in terms of male kind of.
Doesn't mean a man as in like gender. It's not a
Yeah,
gender thing. It's
yeah,
masculine and feminine forces.
yeah,
So
and they all have their own distinctive and particular kind of tasks and duties,
yeah,
positives and negatives
yeah,
within.
exactly. And they
Doesn't
need to
mean
work
they can.
together in balance. But when we, just try to demonize one side of the story, then we become extremely unbalanced. And it's really hard in those situations, especially, when we deny this force to actually be active
Mhm.
and get constructive things done and started in the situation.
Yeah,
So I
I think
think
it's like
it's very
in some way.
important.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I
No,
think
no, no.
in some way it's like denying, for instance, like you just want the sun and the day to exist, but you don't want the night and I don't know, and the moon. It's like,
Yeah,
and they both have an important um, as we're saying, duty. So we need to have both and accept both. And I agree, I completely agree with you that masculine is about a masculine force, about making things happen and working and determination, and in that sense I think it is, and I think it's important we have it, we nurture it, we
mm,
and we work with it
yeah.
rather than against it. Or
And I think the determination is extremely important, because it's like, if you're not determined at the start of your journey, you're never going to be determined. Let's be honest.
yeah.
So we actually have to cultivate these things. We have to create this inner fire to have the courage and to actually do things. And I feel like we actually have to think about, what kind of things need to be done in the beginning, and prioritizing the foundations. So instead of having like unrealistic expectations for what we are doing, we have to prioritize. And that's also in numerology. The energy of number one is about starting new things and, just moving forward with this newness and um cultivating new things and pushing through with that masculine force.
Mhm. I see more like, yeah, as you were saying, you like the beginning, the like, when you're starting like 1 2 3, like with numbers that start from one. I see as well like I don't know, I find it quite exciting because it's like a dot, no? In geometry, if you do a dot, from a dot, you can create any shape. You can create many dots and create a line, you can make a triangle, any shape. So I think the potentials are incredible. But as you were saying, determination. And I think another thing important is self-discipline. And
Mm,
I think that's what many people can lack of, especially I think, I don't know if it's something that comes from generations in terms of like, the very older generations, like the great grandparents, where they were raised in a very um, authoritative kind of they were raising that way, yeah, this kind of
yeah,
parenting where everything was about like rules and following certain things in a certain way, while now I think we have less and less of that. And I think discipline is so important in terms, it's discipline in general, like when you actually teach and educate your child, for instance. um, it helps the child to find those boundaries in that case, not to find those understand what to do and what not to do. But in reality, what it teaches is to obey, if we can say obey, to your own willpower, to
yeah,
when your willpower says, and become like kind of loyal to your willpower. So it's like when you want to start a new beginning again, like a diet,
mm,
you need to follow certain things and you need to be disciplined in order to succeed. If you don't follow that, you are actually not obeying to your own willpower. You are
exactly.
betraying yourself, betraying that.
Yeah, and I think even more so at this point, it's really important to set realistic goals, because it's easy to tell yourself, well, from tomorrow I'm only going to be living on one salad a day, or like something crazy, right? Because someone wants to just get really, really skinny for whatever reasons. And it's like, well, because that's not sustainable. Yeah, it might work for a few days, but the person is just going to give up.
Mm.
And it's really important to get realistic and set those new goals in kind of, you know, in balance, in a way, something that can actually be achieved. Because if we set unrealistic goals, it's going to be important to sustain ourselves like that. And I think like a good thing to to do is to say to yourself, what can I actually do as a lifestyle, and then start from there. And once you kind of have control over that portion of yourself, then you can add more and more discipline. But we
Yeah,
have to start humbly, in a way, you know.
yeah, but that's funny. I had a conversation with a person not too long ago, and because I was focusing on getting a qualification I needed to do certain things. So I just was focused and I worked hard and I managed to do everything even earlier than the normal scheduled time. And this person was saying, well, um, discipline, because I said this is just a matter of self-discipline, because she said I could never do that, and I said I think we can. It's just a matter of being focused and have the will to do it and be self-disciplined. That's the key. And she was saying, and I understand that there is this kind of negative connotation to the word discipline. People think that discipline is a bad thing. It's like somebody telling you what to do. It's not really. It's teaching you and yourself learning about how to work again with your willpower, because discipline in some way I think is the other side of, like in a coin, is the other side of freedom. If
Mm.
you are, if you know how to be self-disciplined, you gain that freedom.
Exactly. And it's quite paradoxical, isn't it? Because you think you're putting all these restrictions on yourself, but actually what you gain is control over yourself, control over your thoughts, control over your emotions, control over your body. And
Mm-hmm.
as a result, you gain control over your life.
Mm-hmm.
And really, that is so much more free than just allowing yourself to do whatever you want, because that's always going to catch up with you. And if you don't have control over yourself, you have control over nothing,
Mm-hmm.
because in reality we don't have control over anything about ourselves. So using that discipline is really important. And especially, you know, I feel like discipline is also about reminding ourselves constantly of why we're doing what we're doing, why we want to do this.
And what we
Because,
need.
yeah, exactly. And the purpose of our action, you know, if it's like a new career, it's like, why do we want to have a new career? And just reminding yourself that, okay, well, I want to have a better life, or I want to be able to provide for my family, or to, you know, reach other goals, and this is just a stepping stone on my journey. It's about having that constant mental and emotional discipline to put yourself in that state where you have this courage and the fire to actually move forward and do things.
Mm-hmm. And I think as well, as you were saying, that being humble to again obey to your own will.
Mm,
And when I was saying as well what you need in terms of, because sometimes what we want is not what we need, and that can be a big problem, because maybe we want a new career and we want to be, I don't know, successful, and we want this and we want that, but in order to do that we maybe compromise or do things that are actually not what we really need inside. So it clashes, and then even if you are self-disciplined but you are clashing against what you really need, you will not really achieve
mm.
the goal that you should in some way.
Yeah, I think the when the what we want has true power is when it's aligned to our soul's purpose,
Ah, yes.
because then it is what we need, it's what our soul needs. So when these two are aligned, they work together. And sometimes I feel like we can actually start off by doing what we want, or like trying to follow that.
Mhm.
But then in the process, those things kind of flake off in a way.
Yeah.
And then we are left, we start to see the bigger picture clearly.
Yeah.
And what we need becomes what we want.
Yeah.
And that's when we're really unstoppable.
Oh yes. And it's good because that's the way. The point is to start anyway, because when you start, you realize, oh, okay, that was a mistake, for instance. So that's not the right route. Okay, let's try the other one. And then you carry on. And then you can start to realize that's not what I really need, or that's not what it really gives me what I was hoping for, or anything. So, and I'm very sure that in some way the universe, or God, or as we want to call it, is always there to support you and try to show you or direct you to the right direction, but you have to put the effort. You are the one that needs to do things and make them happen. Not the
I feel like we have to meet God halfway, whenever we pray or try to like manifest things, we literally have to go towards that, like just make that start, and then everything else will start falling in, because we will be able to see, whether it's signs or lessons. But if we never start, those lessons will never come, and we're going to miss out on all the opportunities to learn and refine ourselves in a process. So the most important thing is to start and to have the courage to fail, because it is going to happen. It's part of learning and the whole process. And
mistakes are actually so precious, because thanks to mistakes you learn the best lessons. Is I'm not saying you cannot learn lessons when everything goes well, but I think when things go wrong is where you really can see, oh, okay, that's definitely not something to do. I have to do this instead.
exactly.
And as well, this concept of thinking that mistakes are bad, or we're scared, or we don't want to make mistakes because we fail, while in reality failure is what is needed. Hard work is what is needed. That's what it makes you get where you need to go. Resilience is what you need in order to get to a certain point. And the harder you work and the less you procrastinate and the more you work on self discipline and all this stuff, the more you can be aligned and find your direction. As you were saying, once you find the direction, that's the most powerful thing, I think. The most powerful thing.
Yeah, I feel like, sometimes we just have to take that first step. Even though we might not fully know exactly what it's going to be, everything else will start falling into place. And we can actually refine, like we said, we might think we know what we want, and maybe we'll take the first step and realize, well, actually that's not it, and just refine the goal a little bit in the process. And that's okay. We don't have to know everything at this stage, because we first have to learn how to walk, and then we learn how to run, and it's we have to take it step by step. But taking those first steps is, it's extremely important, because we can be sometimes stuck in our thoughts and be too much in our head and start overthinking, well, what if this isn't the right thing, and what if this, and it's just like that just creates all this resistance, and it's pointless, because we won't know until we actually start, right?
But as well, I think it can be as well the opposite. That it's like a fire, no? So like you start super exciting, you have your vision, because that was the conception you got. You have your vision, very excited, I have all the willpower in the world, I'm starting. And then you start to have the first difficulty. And then you're like, okay.
Burn out, because you've like put all this excitement, and there's a little some obstacle in a way, and
and you need to fuel it properly. I don't know if this can make sense. You know that I'm starting this new thing about magical parenting that I'm very passionate about. And at the beginning, it was the conception of an idea. It was an idea, but it was a vision. But I couldn't really see, like I had the idea, the vision, but when I actually started to work on it a few years ago, I realized that it kind of changed a bit, and it was in some way it took another kind of form, although the vision was kind of there, but I wasn't able to see it completely. It kind of wasn't completely unfolding in that moment for me. So that's why you just need to be in some way resilient and work on it and carry on and carry on and carry on. So then you manage to get where you have to get. And I think the fool idea, I really like it, the idea of the fool, because when, again, it's a new idea, a new concept, and then you have to put it into action because it's new, people don't really normally find it easy to understand or to support. And that makes your journey even harder. But I think that's the beauty. The harder it is, the more you can learn and the more you can grow and maybe achieve what others couldn't achieve.
Yeah, exactly. And I think I did read somewhere that the feeling of anxiety is actually very related to excitement. So the more anxiety you have over certain things, the more you can actually turn that into that fire, the more you can switch the anxiety into this excitement to do these new things. And I think also because of that anxiety, we might think, well, we don't actually know what we are doing, and that might stop us from beginning. But what's important is to realize that, we're not supposed to know what we're doing. We're not supposed to be good at it yet. For example, me, and I think you can relate to this as well because you're writing a book at the moment as well.
Yes.
English is not my first language. So for me, the idea of writing anything was just like, I'm just completely illiterate. So I couldn't even, just get my head around the fact that I would be, writing articles or writing anything in English. And yeah, here I am because I just thought, well, I want to learn. And I had to start, even though at first I was terrible. And, there were
And
times when
now
I
when
would.
by the way, when I read your articles, by the way, I really love them, and I think are full of important insights. And I don't know. I think they're beautiful written, but I cannot really say much because I'm not English myself. So, but I understand them, and they are beautiful written for me, beautifully, and and I can even see the difference when I read the first few ones and now, and it's not even like not in a long gap,
No,
like there's
it
so much
hasn't been that
difference
long
in
at
time.
all.
Yeah,
Yeah. So it just goes to show we can really learn so much, and it doesn't actually take that long. If we have the willingness to do things, then we can improve drastically.
yeah.
And it actually means so much better, like when people tell you compliments afterwards, you're like, wow, like.
Yeah, and I know because me too. When I started to write a few things at the beginning, I was like, the first time I publish it, I was like, the first blog, I thought, oh my God, now people will read it and they will judge me, or they will think, what did you write? How many mistakes? Did you check this first? Did you do that? Or whatever. And that's the vulnerability part where you feel like they can judge you. You are there in the spotlight and people can judge you. And,
Yeah,
and that is scary.
it is scary.
Very scary because you are like really like you feel I'm not joking. I felt like I was naked. Like you are there naked, vulnerable, and everybody could say or think or judge or anything.
Yeah.
But that is where the inner strength and that willpower will help you to carry on and think it's fine. I'm starting. It's the beginning. It's normal. It's not going to be good enough. It's okay. Do another one. It will get a bit better. And the next one, it will get a bit better. And maybe if you have as well positive, constructive feedback, that helps a lot.
Yeah, well, that's another thing. The constructive feedback is actually so necessary for us. And I think when we are actually these perfectionists, and we feel that we have to make it perfect from the start. Well, that's not really the whole point. The point is to, make those mistakes and actually be told that we are doing something in a slightly off way so that we can improve. And it's, this shouldn't hurt us, even though it might when we have high expectations of ourselves. But we really have to see that as, this is an opportunity for me to get good, to get better and refine myself. And without other people, criticizing our work, we might never ever get better.
Mhm.
I mean, just imagine that you're, I don't know, and a singer, and you sing really bad, but everyone's always scared to tell you that actually you don't sound that good. You're just going to be in this like delusion, thinking that you don't have to improve on anything. But if you have like honest people around you to tell you, well, look, you really need to practice hitting those notes, then you're going to go home and you're going to be like, okay, well, I have to practice now.
Mhm.
And that's what makes you great. So having those honest people and actually seeking criticism in a way and putting yourself out there, is really important. Because if you just sit in there and you're not showing your work to anybody and you're not putting it out there for the world to judge it, then you will never know if it's good or not.
You will never grow. And in some way, societies are made of different kind of people with all their, we're all in different journeys and different learning points and experiences. So you can be exposed to people that um, love you, but for them loving means not really telling you the truth, as you were saying, making you feeling live in a delusional kind of reality. You can have the people that give you honest feedback, and you need to be humble enough to listen to it and understand what to take and what not to take and how to adjust it and revisit the whole ideas you have and everything. And you will have even people that will be pushing instead against, because they will see it maybe as kind of confrontation to what they should or supposed to do, and they will not like it, so they will prefer to put you down rather
Yeah.
than support you. So you have different kind of uh,
Yeah.
judgment around you, and I think all of them give you some learning and teaches you how to move
Mm.
next time and do the
Yeah.
next step.
Because on the flip side, number one is also about leadership. And, when you're a leader, you actually have to realize that you have to do something that hasn't been done before. And, it's just that idea of pushing through regardless of what people say. So, yes, you need to listen to constructive criticism. But sometimes if you have this believe in something, and maybe everyone around you doesn't believe it, maybe they might see it as a threat, you have to have the courage to push through and to lead and, inspire others as well. Inspire those around you to get on board with you and help you, you know?
I think you don't even realize when you inspire someone, because it's so hard already, so hard to believe in yourself, be
Mm.
confident in what you're doing, and go against the ones that push you again, the push against you, and take on board the good stuff that you really need to take on, understand what are the things that you really need to take on, and move forward. I think is so much going on that you just try to go ahead and move and try, and sometimes you can feel hurt, like because of certain things, and and maybe there are moments where you just want to stop 1 second and think, no, 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 1 second, and then you need to have the strength to carry on. And while you do the whole thing, I think you realize all the steps you have done once you are up there, and people realize what you have done when you are already up there, but not while you were going through the whole path. and
Yeah.
and there maybe you can become an inspiration, but
Yeah, exactly.
during that path you are on your own.
Yeah,
The time
exactly.
is you being confident and believing in yourself, and the people who support you, good. The people don't support you, stay on your way, like on your side, and I carry on and being focused. And when you finally get there, people will start to see, not
Mm,
necessarily everyone, because that's not the aim. The aim is not the people to recognize what you do, that's not the aim, but people will start to really see it.
yeah.
But it's more a journey that you do yourself. It's
And I think
really, really.
exactly, and I think this idea of being comfortable with being by yourself and perhaps solitude and spending a lot of time on your own. And because a lot of the time when we start new things, we really have to put in a lot of work. And that means sacrificing a lot of our social life, a lot of, things that we would usually spend our time. Um,
I
just
think it
wasting
depends.
time and just putting yourself in that,
I,
okay, it's just me and this thing that I need to do. And a lot of people are uncomfortable with that. And I think it's really important to be okay with solitude and to just grind on your own and say no to friends sometimes and
yeah,
just,
I think that's the point, because we're all different, as we were saying, we're all unique. So everybody has their own unique way of doing things and express things and relate to each other and make relationships and everything. Yeah. So there are people that might be more extroverted and they like to be amongst others and socialize and maybe be at the center of attention. So because this process, as you were saying, is very individual and internal, is something inside. You need to find it within yourself. That strength is within yourself. Although sometimes people can give you that little kind of, hint or support or
yeah.
that little thing that you need sometimes, but it needs to come from within. There's nothing else. Motivation, it comes from within. That's it. So when you are let's say with this kind of personality, being in that mindset, sometimes it does require to be a bit more on your own and focus and really and yeah and find that strength, and can be even harder than somebody, for instance, that naturally is drawn to be and work independently and on himself. So you have challenges from each side in some way. But as you were saying, I agree, is something you need to find from within. And although it might sound like a sacrifice, as you were saying, in reality, I think you sacrifice more when you don't do it than when you actually do it. So it's not a real sacrifice, I think, at the end of the whole thing, the whole story. It's not, you sacrifice more when you don't, when you waste that
Yeah,
opportunity when
yeah,
you don't
exactly.
do that.
You have to sacrifice the like momentarily the pleasure for long-term fulfillment. And that's really important because really it's the long-term fulfillment that really matters. And you can only find that within you. It's like you have to do some soul searching first
Mhm.
in order
It
for you
doesn't
to
mean it
know.
doesn't mean you cannot be with friends.
Oh, of course not. I think there needs to be a balance. There definitely needs
Yes,
to be a
it's
balance. But
finding
if
balance.
you're
Balance.
constantly running away from
Mhm.
yourself, from, just taking time, and you're constantly around other people and you never even have time to sit alone with your own thoughts and
Mhm.
try to, just think about where you really want to go. It's
Mhm.
so easy for people to just be so scared of themselves in a way, where they're just, they're constantly around others and they feel this anxiety, and they have to be either constantly on the phone or texting someone or always on Instagram. And I feel like some of the most beautiful moments that we can have in our life is when we are just alone with ourselves. That's when God really speaks to us, and when we can really channel, this amazing inspiration. And sometimes it can just be as simple as just going on a walk by yourself and not listening to things all the time, just be alone with your thoughts and, meditate for 10 minutes a day. Even 5 minutes a day can do something. And like you say, there needs to be a balance because we can't really be optimal if we're just by ourselves all of the time. We have to be willing to work with others and collaborate. I think that's also really important. But the foundation is always you, and you need to be able to quiet yourself and listen to your soul and what it really desires rather than constantly seek out ideas from the world, because then you just end up copying what everyone does. You don't get any new fresh inspiration for something that the world hasn't seen yet before.
And it's not completely fulfilling at the end, because again, it's just when you go through hard work that you really can achieve
Mm.
certain things. Easy things don't really work. They go easily. That's the same way they come. Like, when people say sometimes, oh, if I wish I can win the lottery. And I think, I'm not sure I want to win the lottery, because if money comes so easily, it will go very
It will
easily.
go so easy, yeah.
So why is it, while when you actually work hard to get that money, you will be able to keep it and to
Yeah,
be stable on that,
because
because
you
you
will
learn,
know how to invest it, you will
yeah,
know what
you
to
learned
do with
how
that.
to deal with it. You learned how to invest, or how to save, or how to do what is like lots of work going on through time and years maybe before you actually get to that level. So you know how to get to that level, and you know how to keep it that level.
Yeah, no,
So,
that's true. I think one more thing I wanted to mention as well is selfishness, because there has to be a degree of selfishness in the beginning. And but that is a fine line, because you don't want to become, you don't want to forget about everyone around you that is there to support you. And I feel like a lot of the time people can be so goal orientated. They cut everyone out of their life completely, and they just think of that goal and that is it.
mm.
And you need a degree of that in order to keep going, but you don't want to cut out everyone from your life. And you have to realize that this is not entirely everything. We need a balance in life, so we don't want to become too selfish.
I wouldn't say, well, me personally, I wouldn't say selfish. I would say more self-centered, because maybe for me, but maybe it's me. I see selfishness as the more negative side, like without considering the rest. Well, if it's about self-centering, like focus on myself, that
Hmm.
is not a bad thing, because you cannot give if you don't know how to be full. So if you're not full and you don't know how to be, uh, love yourself, respect yourself, etc., etc., you cannot do that with others. You cannot love others. You cannot respect others. You cannot give. You can do nothing if you don't have it first on yourself. So it is necessary to focus first on yourself. So I would say more being self-centered,
Mm.
I think. And then when is the line, the borderline is when you become selfish, I think. And then
Yeah,
when you become selfish, then is because you don't care about others. You can become opportunist, maybe. You can be all the other negative sides. So it's about understanding when you are self-centered or when you are selfish, I
yeah,
think.
yeah. No, that makes sense. I do like that distinction. I think, yeah, you're totally right on that. I think, without a solid foundation of, having self-respect and all of these things, and, having control over yourself, which is discipline again, there is not much we can do for others, even though we might want to. So we want to prioritize ourselves. But yeah,
I
there's a
think
fine line. We don't want to become selfish. So once we start, reaping the rewards, I think this is the time to be like, okay, like I do have like people I love around me, and I want to share these things with them, and not to, just start cutting each other off in the
yeah,
process.
I think this is another misconception in some way. The idea of uh, wanted to give and being there for others and help others. Uh, I think it's not possible if you don't know how to do it with yourself.
Yeah, I mean, it's again, it's, you know, you have to take things step by step. The first step you have to take is what's going on inside of you, because help can be so toxic when it doesn't come from a healthy place.
Mhm.
So, you know, people can have amazing intentions and they end up ruining people's lives because they want to help them, but they are so broken inside. Any help they want to give is actually causing much more harm instead.
And because as well, it's not, I think that's one side. And the other side is that you can help yourself only, you can help somebody when they want help, not when you want to give help. So if they
Yeah.
don't want help, there is no way you can help. You know, we have in Italian, we have this saying that says, water, salt, and advice, like never give it if not asked, something like that.
Okay, nice. I like that.
And it makes sense, you, in some way. So when you give an advice to help, of course, advice in terms of when you are there, like you want to help and try. If the other person doesn't come and ask you, most probably it's because doesn't want it, that doesn't want to really hear about it, doesn't want to, even if you
They're
give
not ready, you
suggestions,
know.
they're not ready or
Sometimes it can be a lot, you know, for people to, you know, hear the truth about themselves or anything. You know, if they are not ready, it can either damage them even more, or it's
or
just
you
gonna
help because
go.
you want, yeah, because you want to try, you, and there is no point. And sometimes it can be you want to help because in reality you don't know how to help yourself, and you think that you feel gratified and feel like a good person because you are helping somebody else,
Oh
but
yeah.
in reality, I don't know, in my experience I notice that often is because they don't really know how to help themselves. And it doesn't mean that they are not, uh, their skills is not about helping, because I think there are people that genuinely want to give and help with nothing in return. I believe, and I know people that really want to give without nothing back. But when they don't know, again, it's the same concept. When they don't know how to work on themselves, how to give to themselves, how to be full themselves, at the end, that giving doesn't bring good things at the end.
Mm.
Like there's always something kind
Yeah,
of not
because
right.
you know, people end up projecting their own issues.
Mhm.
So
And we all have an agenda,
yeah,
whether it is good or not or anything. We all, I think everybody, me, you, everyone has an agenda. But if we don't really know how to be really fully ourselves and what
yeah.
makes us good and feel well and being that kind of peaceful,
And to be aware as well, you know, aware when, you know, you are starting to project, especially when you're helping others, because I don't think it's possible to, you know, be, you know, perfectly have everything, you know, in complete order, because there's always new things that come in that we have to deal with. But we have to, when we want to help others, we have to have enough self-discipline and self-awareness in order to distinguish when we are genuinely helping someone, or when we are basically projecting our own problems onto their life.
mhm,
So
yeah.
yeah,
So I think it's time to
wrap
conclude.
this up. Yes.
And maybe we can conclude with some, like a summary of some insights that we discussed today. And as the VVA kind of motto, we can bring down the blindfold and I don't know, explain in some way, maybe after what we discussed, what is it about new beginnings
Mm.
that we need to kind of be aware of, what can hinder this path, and what actually are the things that will enhance and support and make this path move
Yeah.
forward and grow.
So I think the kind of the most important thing is to not have the fear, you know, be fearless and doubt your doubts and have the resilience to like push through. And
Self-discipline, we were talking a lot as well about.
determination, that inner fire, we have to know how to light it and then, you know, sustain it along the way.
And believe. We need to believe in what we see, in what we feel, in what we know, if we can say no, insight,
Yeah,
and be motivated from insights, because that force is super powerful. It can
exactly.
fight against anything.
Mm.
And yeah, I think when you are starting new beginnings, I think we need to be aware of that um, willpower and taking into actions, and don't be
Yeah,
scared of mistakes.
exactly. And to be comfortable within our own selves and accepting the fact that it's just a beginning, just the first steps. So things don't have to be perfect, and having the willingness to go anyway and to start this new activity, this new career, this new passion of ours, and be okay to be on our own as well and to
And be
cultivate.
naked, as we were saying before.
Yeah,
We're
exactly.
being naked and vulnerable and judged
Yeah,
from the outside, but in some way strong from the
yeah, and
inside to get,
courageous and just,
yes,
you know.
and go through things.
Yeah. So on that note, thank you for listening and we'll see
Yes,
you next time.
yes. Bye.